Ooh, why did I decide to write the book? I guess the interesting thing is I didn't decide to write it. I just remember what it felt like wishing a book like this existed. What actually happened, got to go all the way around Laura's house for it, is I hit this stretch of life where everything was big and fast. I got my first job at a big firm, so it could be my last job, right? The second and last kid was on the way. And I was at this point where all of life had been this personal climb, of expectations I needed to meet, schedules I was to keep. And all of that felt like it had been an acceptable distraction from what I was supposed to be doing, what we're all supposed to be doing, finishing the mission of the Adventist Church, spreading the rest of the truth before time ran out. But I was reaching the end of a lot of these paths and running out of excuses to do that. So like everybody else at the time, I started a blog. Low-key. I refused to call it a ministry, just another angle to reach the world, another frequency. I wanted to add a few stars to the crown, right? Start making the pitch to a generation in my language. And then out of nowhere, right, my college fraternity, viral, goes in the national headlines. Video comes out of them on a bus singing this racist chant, talking about preferring to lynch black men instead of letting us in the club. As a black dude that had been in the club, I was gutted. So I wrote about it immediately. Raw, angry feelings. Not a pitch, not some message of Christian forgiveness, but of the conflict I was feeling in the moment. I post out on my blog, go to sleep. Next morning, millions of people have read it. Whoops. It's the only thing anyone ever really read on the blog. But it scrambled my brain because that fraternity experience I had been holding as a spiritual moment, like a moment of divine intervention in my lifetime. I prayed relentlessly about joining a fraternity because fraternities are the antithesis of Adventist living. I dropped out of Rush Week because I had made my choice, but on Pledge Day, the one house that had had a connection with me, their new pledges are walking around with this shirt. It's got 3 crosses on them. It's a sign, right? Clear as day. They're referencing the crucifixion. So I was even able to convince my Black Adventist mother to let me join this fraternity in a state school in Oklahoma. So it was a miracle. I joined. Now, here I am on the nightly news with a nation divided, not over whether or not the chant was racist, although that was part of a discussion, but this other discussion started of whether I was lying, and I used to sing it too, and I'm some Uncle Tom, self-hating traitor. And I remember thinking, why would God put me in this position, this national embarrassment? It must be so that I can glorify him, right? What else could there be? So I passed the momentum to this young Adventist pastor so that he could help push forward the truth. I take this national tragedy of mine and gave it to God. So not long after that, these close friends that we've had since that same time back in college, they lost their infant in a tragic accident. We all got word that he was in trouble. Whole network of people started praying, and I'll admit, somewhere deep down in that moment with everything going on, I felt like God owed me one, to be honest with you, which is crazy, but it exposed something. I had reached a point where my relationship with God had become transactional. Do the right things, believe the right things, eat the right foods, avoid the wrong people, and he will bless you, keep you safe. If you do your part, you can expect God to do his. If you don't, anything can happen. But that idea was collapsing. There was no set of circumstances where that child shouldn't be here, and a God that could have, should have. That, of course, felt sinful as well. Never questioned the Almighty God's infinite wisdom, even in breaking a mother's heart. But I was disoriented. And I'm also trying to raise 2 children and give them something solid, something that would last and not crumble under their feet. So I started writing. Not a book, just What do I believe? Why do I believe that? Can I stand on it? What kind of God is being painted by these beliefs? And is that the God I want to sell to people? Where did I get these ideas? It turned into a study of theology and religion and your lens towards God, which for me was Adventism. Our thoughts about God, not just what we taught, not just what others believe, but also who disagreed with us from inside, and how did we respond to that? And what did those responses mean about us? So start journaling. And I wanted that process to hold up. I wanted to be able to remember it. I wanted to have receipts, a quote from Ellen, counterpoint from another theologian, my questions, my stories, my assumptions I'm seeing, contradictions I find. And all this is on a computer or phone because my handwriting is terrible, and I'm saving it all to the cloud, the same cloud. So wherever I'm at, if a thought occurs, I can add to the thread. One day I realized this is not just a pile of disorganized thought. There is a story here, a narrative, a spiritual arc. 10 years of searching, time stamped, honest, open. So technically all I've been doing is organizing this book for 6 months. But the truth is, it's been writing itself for over a decade.